Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Health Made Easy. I'm your host, Dr. Jason Jones, and I have a very special guest with us today. I have Mr. Tim James on, who has his own podcast, The Health Hero Show. But today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about 4 secrets to healthy teeth. Now, I'll tell you right up front, Tim, and he would tell you the same thing. He is not a dentist, but I can tell you this. If we haven't learned anything over the last 4 years, that is that oftentimes those that know the most about how to be healthy, no matter what it could be, don't necessarily have to have a degree in something. And there are all kinds of dentists out there. There are natural dentists. There are just sort of run-of-the-mill dentists. There are orthodontists and everything like that. But when you want to get healthy and stay super healthy, you go to those people who have done it and who have helped other people do it, not just folks who are necessarily mechanics for your teeth. Now, Tim is just one of those people that he just leaves you feeling younger and more energetic just by hearing him speak. Through his own health challenges, basically what he ended up doing is producing his own chemical-free food products. That's where chemicalfreebody.com was born. So we're going to get into his story a little bit. We're going to go over those 4 secrets to healthier teeth. You guys are going to love this podcast and the energy that Tim brings. Let's have a good time with it. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Health Made Easy. I'm your host, Dr. Jason Jones, and I'm super excited for our guest today, Mr. Tim James. He started chemicalfreebody.com. We're going to have a super incredible discussion today about 4 secrets to healthy teeth. Now, I gave you a little bit about him on the intro, but before we get going, I'm going to have Tim just sort of introduce himself, tell him a little bit about you, his journey before we roll into getting bigger, stronger, more beautiful teeth. So, Tim, tell our folks a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on, Jason. And I'm actually excited about this topic because it doesn't get asked very often. So it's fun to talk about because I believe that the mouth is the gateway to health. And we'll talk more about that. But so I grew up over in Eastern Oregon on a small cattle and hay farm. We had Hereford cattle. We raised grass and alfalfa hay a little bit. And I grew up on the standard American diet. And everything kind of worked out okay. I was happy. I was up in the woods a lot. I put myself through college cutting firewood. And, I probably shouldn't have drank as much beer as I did in college. But, so I didn't want to do it, but my buddies did it. And I got kind of sucked into what everybody was doing, like whatever society does, right? So always, you got to go along with the crowd, right? To feel good and all this stuff, you think. So fast forward, I ended up playing baseball at a high level for quite a while. I was in baseball for 30 years. So I was really into that and into sports and health. But what happened was at age 37, I was 42 pounds overweight. I had a huge patch of eczema on my left knee, 2 patches of eczema on my elbows. They were cracking and bleeding. I was bleeding on the people's walls, my shirts. I had to throw them away as a financial advisor. I couldn't wear white anymore because I'd stained my shirts. It was painful. It was annoying. And it was like my universe was shrinking because I didn't want to take my shirt off like at the beach anymore. Not because I was overweight like everybody else was, but it's because I looked like a salamander. And then it got worse. Then I started getting acid reflux really bad. So I was eating Tums and Rolaids 24/7. Doctor wanted me to go on Prilosec and other medications. But I didn't want to go. Prilosec just sounded like a foreign alien to me. I just didn't want to do it. I stayed away from the pharmaceutical drugs because you'd read it and be like, hey, if you take this, you could have increased gambling and suicide and your left, pinky would fall off and just weird stuff. I'm like, I ain't taking this stuff. So I just dealt with my issues and I just eating Tums and Rolaids 24/7. I literally couldn't even run around a track with one lap without just huffing and puffing. I was really out of shape and I basically stopped working out. And the only exercise I was doing was walking my dogs because they couldn't walk themselves. Mm-hmm. Then it got worse. Then I started bleeding rectally when I pooped and blood was coming out. And this went on for 2.5 years. Again, more doctors and stuff. And I didn't want to do the medicines. And then finally, on a vacation in northern Peru, a town called Tumbes, I was out on a fishing trip and I was doubled over in pain in the ocean. And then my wife's dad was with us and he was a medical doctor, ran a big clinic in Lima, Peru. And he's like, yeah, we have to get you to the hospital. So we drove down to the airport. I missed the airplane flight by like about 30 minutes. And there was only one flight out of this place. It's very remote per day. He's like, shit. He goes, we got to get you to a hospital or you could die. So they rented a van and 6 hours to the middle of the night, we drove down this bumpy ass road and every bump, dude, was like somebody punching and stabbing me with a knife in my gut. And my wife was holding me and I was like, bump, 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 bump. It's like, ow, 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 ow. 6 hours this went on. It was the most horrible experience I've ever had in my life. When I got there, I was completely soaked head to toe. The money in my wallet was wet. And I was completely exhausted. So they put me on we drove to this town called Peoria. They put me on a examination table, and above me, I'm a third world country, dude. There's like bugs flying around me, like in the hospital. And I'm like, oh man, this isn't good. And like, I can't even use my damn insurance down here. I've been paying into it all my life. So I was not happy about that, but I was worried because he's like, you could die. So I should have went into surgery right there, but her dad didn't want me to go into surgery. He wanted his surgeons to do it because he just wanted to take care of me. And you're not supposed to do this, but he had him dope me up. Then they put me on a commercial plane flight, flew me into Lima, and then I took a taxi to the hospital and right onto a gurney into the surgery. And then I woke up, and then, the next day I'm like, whoa, and then I spent the rest of my vacation recovering, and then my wife wheelchaired me back in the United States. So I learned a couple things from that. Number one, I don't ever want to get surgery again, but thank God this is where Western medicine shines. Yep. The critical care, the crisis care, the emergency room care that was born out of wartime. That's what Western medicine is based on. Patching you up, you get shot, blown an arm off or whatever, or you have to have an organ removed. They can save your freaking life. And I am so grateful for the doctors and the nurses, and the people at that hospital and the staff that took care of me and allowed me to be here today to do what I do. Now, on the other side, taking care of your health long-term, not so good. We'll talk more about that later.
That's for sure.
But the other thing that I learned is that my poor health doesn't affect just me. It affects everybody else around me, because I ruined that trip, not only for myself, but for my wife. We put a lot of time and money into it. And it was her dad's first vacation in 30 years away from that hospital. He's a workaholic. And where does he end up? Back in the hospital. So fast forward, I come home. I'm still trying, high fat, low protein, trying all these things, right? Low carb, high carb, trying to lose weight, fix my elbows and all my poop problems and the pain and all this. And finally, a buddy of mine got cancer. He got chronic lymphocytic leukemia, my buddy Charles, at age 43. So this was coming right after my buddy Clay on my baseball team at age 40 died of stomach cancer, left three little boys behind. So my grandma died of brain cancer, my aunt died of skin and melanoma and lung cancer, both. And, I went through these processes. So I know it's like when you get cancer, you're pretty much toast. That was my first person experience in my life and the people around me. So now Charles has got cancer. I think he's toast. And he asked me to go with him to the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida. Are you familiar with them?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So they're like this natural detox and nutrition clinic. It was started by a gal named Ann Wigmore, who came from Lithuania. Her grandmother was her surrogate grandma was like the village healer. And she taught Ann about herbs and grasses and juice and all this stuff. Well, Ann healed herself of stage 4 colon cancer with like literally lawn grass and herbs. Like the chlorophyll out of now, people use wheatgrass shots. They take wheatgrass shots and they do things with wheatgrass topically and actually rectally for cancer. But she was using grass, just regular long grass. And it's the same, whether it's long grass, barley grass, ryegrass, wheatgrass, grass is grass is grass. It's chlorophyll. It's the minerals and chlorophyll that's inside of it and oxygen and things that, cancer's anaerobic. It can't live in an oxygenated environment. So she ends up healing herself. Like it's crazy, right? Back in the late 50s. So this institute has been around about 61 years. It's currently run by Doctors Brian and Anna Maria Clement. And I told my buddy, I said, yeah, I'll go down and support you. So I went along for the ride. And on the plane flight there, he's like, oh, by the way, there's no meat or dairy or salt or sugar. And I'm like, what? No meat? Are you crazy, dude? It's like, you have to have meat to live and build muscle. And it's part of being a man. It's like, what's going on? I'm freaked out. Okay. This is the redneck. I'm Freakville. But all I can tell you is day one, my heart acid reflux was gone. It had been plaguing me for years. I lost 11 pounds the first week, and where it started was a class called Internal Awareness. And this doctor comes out and he's very fit, Dr. Scott Josephson, and he explained from the time you eat food, what happens until it exits the body. I was like, wow, this is fascinating. And he was trying to sell us on, and he told us that the average person, now listen carefully, guys, the average person is carrying around 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in our colon, right? It's a nasty stuff, and it's low oxygen, high acid, and it's a breeding ground for viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, fungus, parasites, and mutagens. Cancers love it. So that's inside of us. We don't want that. So they were trying to sell us on colonics or colon hydrotherapy. Are you familiar with that one?
Familiar, yeah.
Okay, for those that are listening that are not, because I wasn't, you basically set on a tube rectally and water goes in and out of your colon very gently for an hour, and it cleans your colon, cleans all that crap out of there. And I remember Dr. Josephson pointing at me and he said, hey, Tim, you got 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. And if you ever want to be healthy, truly healthy, you got to clean that stuff out. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I elbowed Charles and said, look, dude, I come here to help you, but I'm not doing that colon hydrotherapy thing. I don't care what that guy says. Like, that's just weird. but he was smart. So he brought out virtual colonoscopies of 3 people that were unhealthy and 1 that was healthy. The first one was a 24-year-old female with Hashimoto's thyroid issue and thrush. She had a yeast infection. Inside of her colon was yellow and white, literally nasty. I was like, oh my God. Then they went to a 65-year-old male with colon cancer and parasites. Black tar looking stuff inside of his colon. Yeah, there was a little bit of brown. There was more black and white worms crawling around. So he looks at us. He said, by the way, those of you that think parasites are a third world affair, far from the truth. Easily over 50% of you in this room right now have parasites. And he goes, I'm not talking about these tapeworms, hookworms, and pinworms that you can see with the naked eye. I'm talking about smaller parasites, microscopic parasites, and all of them are drinking your drink, eating your food, and they're urinating and defecating in you and having thousands and thousands of eggs and babies. And I'm just like, what? So then he goes to the 45-year-old female with breast cancer and her colitis or Crohn's or something. Her gut was jacked up. And inside of her, again, black tar looking, there's some brown in there. Now you think in the colon, you're going to see brown. That's part of the waste removal system, but black and worms and white and yellows. It was weird. So then they went to this person that had been on the Hippocrates lifestyle for a couple of years. And inside of their colon, it was pink and clean. You could see the blood vessels. And yes, there was waste matter in there, but the terrain was completely different, brother. The terrain was different. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head. And I'm like, oh, it's an inside game. And I realized that the gut is like the engine. It's the driving engine inside of us. And we can't see it. That's why it's, nobody's given us an owner manual how to take care of it. So I looked at it like a tractor back on the farm or a truck. If it's not running right, if you have the check engine light on, you want to get your tractor or your truck into the shop immediately to fix it. Otherwise, you're going to have a big repair bill, or it's going to break down and leave you stranded and you won't be able to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
Right. But when we have these check body lights, you overweight like I was, you have eczema or psoriasis on your skin, you have fibromyalgia, cancer, you don't feel good, you're tired, you're overweight, you're mental fog. These are all your body's check body lights. We have to start recognizing with our sensors and becoming an intelligent system that we have to change the inputs. We have to change the environment. The environment is everything, right? It's everything. If you're in a house and the house has got all wood inside of it and it's clean and you're breathing that air versus a house that's got paint, it's been painted with toxic paint and laminate floors that are off gassing. And let's just go ahead and throw a little bucket, a 5-gallon bucket with the lid open of gasoline over there. Who do you think is going to be healthier? The person breathing the first room's air or the second? Everybody knows it's the latter. And that's the problem today, because all these microscopic toxins that we're breathing in, we're drinking them in our water, they're in our food, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, larvicides, jet fuel, automobile exhaust, rubber compounds off the tires, paint off gassing, Glade air fresheners, you name it. Even your clothes that are not natural fiber. These are off-gassing, estrogen-mimicking chemicals into your body and disrupting hormones. So it's these, you can't see it, right? So anyway, now I'm freaked out. I'm like, I'm going to do colon hydrotherapy. So I do the colon hydrotherapy session the next day. I dropped 10 pounds in a 1-hour session. The record at the Institute at the time in 2011, one lady dropped 27 pounds of impacted funk and gunk and junk came out of her in one 1-hour colon hydrotherapy session. Now I know some of you might go online and look it up, and if you look online, they're going to try to scare you into not doing it. I have a podcast called The Health Hero Show. Episode 38, I actually interviewed Rebecca Harder. She's an Act 1 certified instructor level colon hydrotherapist that's delivered over 20,000 colon hydrotherapy sessions. She has 2 clinics. She's an absolute authority on it, and she debunks all that stuff. So that's a good resource for you.
Yeah.
But I know some of you are still going to be like me in the beginning. I'm not doing that. But I still think you should. And I think you should do 2 of them back to back. So after this, I started having night sweats. I was irritable. I had a metallic taste coming out of my tongue as I was going through this detox, Hertz reaction, whatever you call it. They called it doing surgery without a knife. My buddy was kind of feeling the same. And then all of a sudden we woke up on day 4 or 5 and man, we felt like we were freaking 18 again. I literally, my arms were tingling. My freaking brain was turned back on. I looked at Charles like, dude, we have discovered the fountain of youth. Do you feel as good as I do? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh my God. I said, I can't believe it. Like literally, this is what everybody's looking for. This isn't some woo-woo mythical thing. All it is getting this toxic stuff, sludge out of the digestive tract, cleaning up the blood, the fat, and the muscle tissue of these toxic chemicals that you can't see, and reducing your stress with breathing techniques and walking in the woods and that kind of stuff, and hanging around people that you love and being around sunshine. And like literally it's nature. All we have to do is plug back into nature and we heal. And I said, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to go home and I'm going to give up all meat except for bacon. We're going to juice. We're going to do this. And you're going to heal yourself of cancer. And that's exactly what we did. We came back and in 2.5 years, he was cancer free. and he was able to see his son graduate high school, went to father-son weekend at Oregon State University. He got into guitar, started a band. I started playing guitar too. We play every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And I got my friend. And for me, I lost all the weight, elbows cleaned up. So 8 months later, that big patch of eczema was gone. And this happened very rapidly. And it's been 11 years, and I'll be 49 in June. And I still literally feel like I'm 18. I've never looked back. And for 11 years, I've been geeking out on how can I look younger? How can I feel better? How can I have more energy, more mental clarity? How can I take it up another level, I'm always looking. And then I just share that with our clients and our students and, give them these things. Then they can try it for themselves and see if it works for them.
Yeah, Tim, I love it, man. And I'm in a very similar journey myself, because I'll be 48, my birthday, coming up, and always, people ask me all the time, it's like, man, how do you have so much energy? It's like you're, and you get the same thing. I'm sure they look at you and they go, no way you're 40, you're 49, or whatever. They're just like, I would have never guessed that, they're just like, well, I had a guy today, I was talking to him, and he's like, well, I was like, I know you got 2 kids in college. So I'm just kind of doing the math, but it's just like, you're just not there. I'm just like, well, that's just kind of how it is. But, I think the big thing is that we just live different lives, and we take charge of our health and our well-being. And I think that probably a large majority of all the things that you just said, and probably even more, kind of goes into our topic today about, having healthy teeth. But what I want to know about healthy teeth is what do you notice are the main causes for people having unhealthy teeth?
Well, there's a few of them. Number one, let's just go in order here.
Yeah.
A lack of nutrition, right, would be number one. Weston Price, the dentist that went around, and most people know about the Weston Price Institute. And why were all these indigenous people that are out there eating stuff right from nature having all these strong teeth and no cavities, and just unbelievable? But we're smarter over here. We're brushing with fluoride and all this stuff. And how come our teeth are rotting? Well, it's because it's a systemic issue. It means it's internal. Like if people have allergies, like whether it's pet allergies, food allergies, or seasonal allergies, a big problem is because of long-term nutrient deficiencies. Well, it's the same thing with your teeth. You're only going to be made, your body's a self-regenerating mechanism, right? When you get a cut, it heals itself, right? Cells are dying off every day. Billion cells die. And hopefully you're making more cells than die. You're going to stay looking younger. If you're making less cells, you're going to age faster. So if you can flood your body with nutrition and give it the building blocks that it needs, then you will be a strong person and you won't get sick and your teeth won't rot. I mean, that's what it boils down to. It's kind of like in the 70s, the environmentalists were really protesting because they were spraying fruit trees like 6 to 7 times a year, which was crazy, spraying all these toxins right on the food we're going to eat. And why were they doing that? And because the freaking soil was degraded. They didn't know how to take care of the soil. If they would have taken care of the soil and had strong, healthy soil with good microbiome and bacteria in it and permaculture, all that kind of stuff, those trees would have been strong and they would have had their natural defenses up. And they wouldn't need the pests and all this stuff. Yeah. But because the soil got weak, the trees got weak, and that's perfect recipe for a chemical company to come in and start, spraying the soil, spraying the trees. And now we spray apple trees and stuff like that, fruit trees, on average of 16 to 17 times a year. So it's long-term soil deficiency. So if the food that you're eating today, which most of you listening are, is 85% deficient, even if you went organic and did all that stuff, you're literally running around on 15% fuel. That's why supplementation today, proper supplementation, which is like a needle in the haystack, literally in the industry. Without it, you're going to suffer, and your teeth are going to suffer, and you're going to have a breakdown. But with it, you can start replacing the 85% of nutrients that are farmed out of the soil that aren't in the foods that you're eating, whether it's the plants you eat or the animals that ate the plant that you eat. It's out of the food chain. You have to replace it. So if you can do that, you're going to bolster and strengthen up your entire immune system, and you're going to give your teeth the building blocks that they need to remain strong. Okay, so that's number one. Number two reason why people have major issues, again, we just talked about it. It's the chemical toxicity. It drives down our immune system. So, and I always tell people, like, don't take my word for it. Type these 3 words into your browser when we're done here. Umbilical cord chemical. umbilical cord chemical. And you guys will see the studies that I saw that went back to 2005 showing that every single child and young mother that was born, they test the umbilical cord blood. And guess what? They look for 400 toxic chemicals that harm humans. And they find about 250 what they're looking for, 71% on average. Now let's extrapolate that out. There's actually 100,000 toxic chemicals out there, and there's only 1/4 are tested. The rest are just released out there. It's stupid. If they can't get them tested within I think it's 120 or 180 days, then by law, they just let them go. It's like, wait a minute. No, there should be a log jam. They shouldn't be able to go out until they're tested. It's stupid, but they do. So that means if you extrapolate that out, we could have up to 71,000 chemicals in our bloodstream. But the study showed that of those 250 that they found in these young babies, 180 cause cancer in humans and 212 cause developmental and brain disorders. So the reality is I sat back, Jason, in my seat when I read these studies, and I was like, oh my God, we are all polluted. And this is why we're de-evolving. And the older we are, the more time we've had to bioaccumulate these toxins into our body from the air we breathe, the water we drink, things that come into personal contact with our skin, like personal care products, shampoos, deodorants, makeups, these types of things, sunblock, these things, right? So this chemical pollution is you can't see it. It's like that the funk and gunk and junk inside the colon. You can't see it, but it's a problem. So, but if you get it out of there, you release this body burden, your immune system sings, and then you can do it. The other thing is stress. Stress affects everything. Stress definitely affects the immune system, and it affects the teeth. Okay. Now, one of the biggest stressors today, besides the emotional stress, is there is a physical stress, right, being put on our teeth, and that is from mask wearing. Now, I come from the camp. I do not believe in pro versus anti dialectics. When we talked about this on the pre-show. If you see, somebody's like pro mask or they're anti mask, I'm not for that. I want to know, what does it actually do to the human body? I don't care. I don't want to get in that pro anti debate, because that is there on purpose. It's been put there to cause division between working class people, and working class people, the only solution is uniting. We can't be pissing in the wind and fighting around infighting. It's stupid. Got to come together. So when you look at what does a mask do when you put it on your mouth? Well, number one, it disrupts airflow. When you disrupt the airflow, you raise the temperature of the mouth. When the temperature of the mouth goes up, the acidity goes up, basically. On a pH scale from 0 to 14, let's say 1 being very acid, and 0 acid, completely acid, and 14 completely alkaline. 7 in the middle is neutral, right? So, we're about 7.34, 7.36. We're slightly alkaline as our body, right? So if your acidity of your mouth goes up, it drops down, then of the 700 oral microbiome or bacteria in our mouth that are part of our innate immune system, right? And that are systemic, are internally connected to the other parts, like our gut microbiome and our neural system and our cardiovascular system. Everything's connected. It's like the foot bone's connected to the leg bone. The human body is a complete system. Now, there are other subsystems in it, like the lymphatic system and the cardiovascular system and the nervous system. And we can talk about that all day long, but they're all connected, Jason. That's what's really cool. So we want to look at the body as a whole system, not decompartmentalize it. Oh, your foot hurts, go to the podiatrist. Oh, you can't see, go to the optometrist. Oh, your gut's jacked up, go see the gastroenterologist. Well, that's great. They specialize in that one thing, but they're not. It's like the blind men touching different parts of the elephant and thinking that they're seeing completely different things. Oh, the foot's a tree and the trunk is a rope. And no, it's a freaking elephant. It's all connected, right? Mm-hmm. So your oral microbiome is connected. And when the acid goes up, 3 or 4 of those 700 bacteria are not good, but they're normally kept in check, but they proliferate and grow. One of them being gingivitis. This is why dentists are reporting a 50% increase in what they call mask mouth. Rotting teeth, cracking teeth, and gum disease is spiked. It's went through the roof, 50%. Let me tell you this. It's not just an isolated event in the mouth. If you're wearing a mask, you are harming your entire immune system. We are going to see cardiovascular disease skyrocket. Cancer is going to skyrocket because the CO2 oxygen exchange is turned off. Most people don't know this, but here in Oregon, we have a thing called OSHA. And if OSHA comes to your commercial building and you have CO2 levels at a certain level, that are dangerous for human beings, they will shut your business down until you get that fixed for your employees, so it's safe. Okay, that makes sense. Unfortunately, 2 breaths in a mask and you're over those allowed limits by OSHA for carbon dioxide levels. Yet our governor, through emergency order, is using OSHA to police us to wear masks. So they're actually going completely against their own laws. It's the human biology. So the worst thing is for children. As children are growing, they're seeding and growing their bones to become an adult. And this bone is part of the storage or structure component of this intelligent system that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to grow it and seed it for life, right? Well, the same thing's happening for the child's gut and oral microbiome, these bacteria that are a huge part of the immune system, huge. And wearing a mask is going to disrupt that growth, and you're going to irreparably harm that child for life. They're not going to have the immune system that they could have had. So you parents are going to have to deal with a more sickly child the rest of your life. And it's more of a de-evolution approach, right? Because we should be growing and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. The stronger survive in nature.
Yep.
We're getting weaker and weaker and weaker because of, we're just away from nature, and people forget that we are nature. We don't live in nature. We don't live with nature. We are a freaking expression of nature. We are nature. Water's in nature, and your body's mostly made of water. These bacteria in the soil are the same. Most of them are a lot of the same bacteria in your gut, right? And what's your body made up when you die? If somebody cremates you, there's a bunch of minerals. Where do you get those? From the soil. So it's very clear that we are nature, and that disconnect is why big problem. We have all these issues, health issues today. So those are just some of the foundational things, Jason, and some of the reasons why people are having poor teeth today. It's a lack of nutrition, chemical pollution, stress, and I'm just throwing the mask thing in because it's kind of the thing of the times right now. And we always say that, heroes say the right thing at the right time, not when it's convenient. We don't want to, and like there's so many people now, they're like, oh, Fauci's an idiot or whatever. And Well, that's great now after 70-80% of us are been jabbed. But where were you back in March of 2020? Right? Where were you? Right. So now they want to get votes. I guess the governor of Massachusetts just said that he's, I guess, against masks or something like that. Now, well, or vaccines and mandates. Like, thanks a lot, dude. Thanks a lot. 80% of us are been stabbed already. So anyway,
yeah.
No, I don't want to make it a political thing. I want to focus on your tooth health here. So
absolutely. No, absolutely. But I'm with you on that, because I think that it can be very difficult, for the average American to just step back and objectively look at things, because as you found over the last 9, 10, 11 years, you've had to do a ton of reading, a ton of research, a ton of learning just to get to where you are. And I think, most people, unless they get super sick, like you were and your friend was, the chances of them doing that is going to be kind of slim to none. Like, some people just, unless they have a good crisis in their life, they're not gonna get there. So, I think having those 3 things are super important, because we always got to look for the cause, what's causing it to be there. But then once we know what that is, what would be your sort of solution? Like, what would be maybe 3 or 4 or 5 practical things that people could do to start to clean up the system so that their teeth would actually be better?
Well, I think we should probably, I definitely want to get into that. It's pretty simple, and those 3 things that I talked about, the lack of nutrition, the pollution, and the stress, this is the solution. This is the foundational solution to all of our health issues.
Yeah.
Right. It is, because everything's connected to you and your body. It's a system. Whatever's going to help you with your teeth now is going to help you with your gut and your heart and all this other stuff. It's all connected. Now, there might be some certain little specific things for each one, and therapies or supplementation or things you need to detox. Yes. But for the most part, if you put the foundation in place, we see a tremendous amount of people within 6 months, probably 70 to 80% of people, they look 5 years younger, and they feel 10 years younger in 6 months, just following these protocols and stuff like that. And it's not like rocket science. So cleaning up your air that you breathe, very important. Cracking your windows at night. I have a Himalayan salt lamp behind me. It creates negative ions. It cleans the air. I've got essential oils going that cleans the air, but I have an industrial size home air purification unit that freaking turns my air into it's freaking mountain fresh air. It's amazing. Right. So that's getting my air. I take 20,000 breaths a day. So I'm an intelligent system. I want that input dialed because I want it to be passive. Number 2, I want to make sure that my water is freaking dialed. I want it to be clean, 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 clean. How do you do that? You can't just filter it. That's like throwing a sock in a river. You have to put it through a purification system. And if you go through reverse osmosis or distillation or deionization, one of the 3 ways that I know of, one time, you're only going to pull out 90% of those contaminants. So you have to, I believe, triple purification to get it to 99.9. But then after that, if your water, this is very important, Jason, if your water is city tap water, and I used to be a construction guy, so I put a lot of water lines in. Those water lines are under super high pressure. What happens when you crack like a fire hydrant? That water comes out. When you put water under that much pressure to push it out through an entire city, you take the water molecules that are normally supposed to be 4 or 5 in a cluster, and they get stuck together and like 20 to 25 in a cluster. They are too big, which means they can't really get through the intestinal lining that well. The screen's too big. It's like a bowling ball trying to go through a chain link fence. So you need to restructure the water. If you're on city tap water, you have to restructure the water. You have to be an intelligent system. This is very important. And I was like, for eight and a half years, man, I was all about purified water. This gal never gave up on me. Her name was Danu. She's like, you got to get this machine. I'm like, I know about the machine. It's a good alkalizer. It's good for people with cancer and that kind of stuff. But it has a very crude filtration system. I have this triple purifier. I don't need it. I'm already past that point. I don't need alkalized water. But what I didn't know was that unit she was trying to sell me on also restructured the water. And as a side bonus, it charges it with molecular hydrogen, which is a whole freaking awesome thing to charge your own cells. And I'm all about increasing your cell frequency. That's where I get a lot of my energy and where you probably get yours. So I try this water. I drink a quart of the water at her place. And 15 minutes later, she's like, you're drinking another quart. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. It's a lot of water. I drank the second quart and it was like it was gone. The first one wasn't even there. I was like, well, this is weird. And then 24 minutes into that process, my brain turned on, my arm started tingling. And I was like, holy crap. And she's like, yeah. And she's, I've never done this before. She's like, I'm going to give you a third one because you eat so clean. You've done all this detoxing stuff and you eat like so many sprouts and stuff. So I drank a third one, dude. I was high on water for 6 hours. So I bought the machine from her and I've been high on water ever since. So get your water right. So you got your air right, you get your water right, and get fresh foods. Go to your farmer's market, grow your own herbs, start learning how to sprout in your house. Start with lentils or mung beans. You can do those on your countertop with no soil and they're ready in 2.5 days. Living foods. These things have hormones, oxygen, phytochemicals, and enzymes. And on average, sprouts are like 10 to 30 times more nutritious than a fresh picked vegetable, which means I can take one handful of like sunflower sprouts, eat it. That would be equivalent to going out into my garden and eating 30 handfuls of fresh cut kale out of the best organic soil. You can't, I mean, it's like genius. Sprouts are like the best medicine like ever. Like they're unbelievable. Wheatgrass is an example.
It's super inexpensive. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Pennies.
A little
It's
bit just medicine. Like blows up into this huge amount.
It's like the world's finest medicine. And it's nature, right? When we're plugging back into that. So clean air, clean water, clean food, fresh food. Stay away from stuff like that that are not. And then, sunshine's important. Getting around your friends and family and being happy. Doing what fulfills you. Working on your spiritual path and your connection with your creator, he, she, it, God, the vortex, whatever you want to call it. Everybody has their own deal, and that's fine. Those are all some things, that can help. We have products and stuff, dude, to help people like a clinic in a box. So I've kind of modeled my products after what I learned at the Institute. So if people want to get their gut clean up the fat, the blood, the muscle tissue, all these toxins and flood their body with nutrients, we have kits and products like that. So we can make it easy for people. Cause I know not everybody can like fly to Hippocrates Health Institute and stay for 2 or 3 weeks. I get it. We're busy. We're raising kids, and especially with the job issues and stuff today, So those are some things we can do, but we still need to get into those 4 topics because that's really important.
Yeah. Oh, the 4 secrets, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Fire away.
So I want to make sure that we cover that. So, okay. So here's 4 things that I've learned in my journey as a health coach. Now, I'm not a dentist, not a doctor, don't claim to be, but I've coached over 600 people personally, one-on-one over a 6-month period through this transformational process. And I've learned a lot. I've also basically coached in my home, face-to-face, taught over 5,500 people in detox, nutrition, and juicing classes, and thousands of people now around the globe in the last 11 years with our company at Chemical Free Body. So kind of on the pulse of this deal, right? And I'm pretty much a straight shooter. So here's what I've found. When it comes to your teeth, there's 4 areas to really pay attention to. Okay, number 1 is mercury fillings.
Oof.
Mercury is one of the most toxic substances on the planet. Okay. And if you just mix it with some nickel and some silver and you call it amalgam and somehow magically it's not toxic, it's not the case. You've got to go to a really good biological dentist that's been doing the work for 10, 20, 30 years. They're in it because a lot of people are getting into it now for the money. But you want somebody that really just wants to help you, right? You had a good dentist that resonates with you. There's a website called IAOMT.org. That's for the International Academy in Toxicology and Medicine. That's where you can go, IAOMT.org, and you can find a good biological dentist in your area. That's a good resource, okay,
Yep.
just to let people know. So number one, you want to go in and you want to get these mercury fillings removed. Now, you want to make sure that the dentist actually knows what he's doing too. You should be, they'll probably, if they're smart, they have a little meter they're not supposed to have, and they can actually test each individual mercury filling and see which ones are the worst ones. Then they'll start pulling the worst ones out at once. First, you might not be able to pull them all out at once. It could cause you could get real sick. You might have to pull them out in stages like I did. I had a whole mouthful of them. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe it.
Same here.
Doctors put it in, the doctor was a good guy putting them in, but he just didn't know. And my mom and dad, we went with amalgams because they were cheaper and we didn't have the money for the gold and all this stuff. So anyway, I got this mouthful of mercury, 4 basically remodels, very painful, but I got the stuff out $8,000 later. So, and insurance doesn't cover to get this stuff out. So they try to pin you, so I'm like, screw it. I didn't pay my taxes 1 year so I could get these out of my teeth. I put myself first. Screw it. I'll pay. I had to get it out. And, but anyway, you want to get that stuff out. You should be drinking our Green 85 has a lot of chlorella in it, or you could take chlorella tablets. And so, you want to take there was actually a formula that I created, those little chlorella tablets. And if you've seen them, it's a green algae.
Yeah.
You just take your body weight times 0.33, and that's how many tablets you should be taking. So if you're 100 pounds, you would be taking 33 tablets 2 days before, 33 chlorella tablets the day before, and then 66 the day of, and then 33 the day after, and 33 the day after. Now, chlorella has a way to bind to heavy metals. That's an extra precaution you can do. They might have you swish with charcoal before and after you do the thing. They'll cover your mouth. They put a dam up. They have a big suction cup, it's like a vacuum sucking the mercury vapors up as he's cleaning. Yep. He should be dressed in like a hazmat suit, because these people are like true warriors, because even with all the precautions they do, they're still getting exposed to mercury. And that's why we believe every one of the dentists and nurses and stuff and the dental assistants, they should be taking our toxin detox product because it pulls the heavy metals out. But and if you look at the dental hygienists, they have a much higher rate of miscarriages and birth defects, and the dentists have higher rates of suicide because of mercury. Now, you guys probably heard of this statement, mad as a hatter. So you might have to be a certain age to know that, but mad as a hatter, look it up. Mad as a hatter. Where did that come from? It became from the people that used to make felt hats, and they used mercury to keep the felt nice or whatever. And the mercury poisoning killed them, but it destroyed the neural network of the brains of these hat makers. That's where the term mad as a hatter came from. So for these dentists to be pulling mercury out of your mouth, they're freaking heroes. They're on the front line pulling out crap that shouldn't be there. So that's number one, mercury fillings. You want to get them out. Number two is root canals. You should never get a root canal. Ever, 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 ever get a root canal. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go to your dentist if they don't know what they're doing. They might be a good person, but again, it is what it is. And they're going to say, hey, we got some good news and bad news. Well, what do you want first? Well, give me the bad news. Well, the bad news is your tooth's pretty bad. We might have to pull it. Whoa, what's the good news? Well, we could probably save it if we do a root canal. So do you want to pull the tooth? We could leave it open. They might even say this, but I mean, this is, hopefully they're telling you this, or we'll put in a bridge, or we'll do an implant. And those are expensive. Implants are the most expensive. Bridges are pretty expensive. And you leave it open, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to look like a hillbilly, right? And then your other teeth could move around because you have that hole there. So that could cause other issues. So what's somebody going to say? Well, root canal is pretty inexpensive. They can do it pretty quickly. Well, so do you want me to do the root canal and save your tooth? Or do you want to leave it open? No, I'll just save the tooth, doc. Save my tooth. All right. And they do a root canal. Very inexpensive. They make a good profit margin on it compared to the other stuff. Not the other stuff, but the value comparison there. And guess what? You have just put in a permanent infection into your tooth. a systemic internal infection.
Correct.
Now, we have these things in our teeth called dental tubules. And the back teeth are bigger, and they have like 7 to 9 miles of these dental tubules. And the front teeth have maybe 2 to 3 miles of these dental tubules. Bacterium can stack 6 wide in these dental tubules. So it's a super tiny microchasm going on inside of there. So what happens is that you have an infected tooth. They go in there, clean it out. They do all this stuff. Sometimes they actually put mercury stuff in the bottom in there, and then they seal it up, with more of that kind of stuff. But they might put ceramic, whatever. But they actually put mercury sometimes in it. But even if they don't, maybe they do ozone or whatever, they can't get it all. They can't get it all, and they can't see it all. There's 9 freaking miles, up to 9 miles of dental tubules in your tooth. They can't see it, and they can't get it all. Some of it remains, and it starts breeding and growing and breeding and growing. And eventually the tubules are completely filled up. The glass is full. And then what happens when you're filling up your glass and it's full? The water starts spilling over. The bacteria, the infection starts spilling over into your body, into your immune system. Now your immune system has to deal with that infection. So if you're a sickly person, or what's going to happen is instead of your immune system dealing with something else, other invaders and things coming in, it's now dealing with this 24/7 infection, just like having a sliver in your thumb, and you can never get the sliver out. And as a side note, I've seen this in other cases where somebody has a bladder sling put in, like a metal bladder sling. That's going to cause the same thing. Mm-hmm. When people unfortunately get in car accidents, they have to put the metal stuff in there. It's going to cause a reaction, an infection or a reaction in the body. And for ladies, if you have breast implants, it's like having a sliver in your thumb 24/7. And I had a young lady, she was 38 years old, and she had all these health issues. And let me tell you what, we coached her. She did everything right, and she felt much better, but she still couldn't quite heal. And she's a little gal. And I finally said, Carolyn, I said, you got breast implants? And she's like, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, because you're a small lady and your boobs are huge. I mean, I said, it was probably a pretty good guess. I said, I knew it. And I said, look, I brought this book for you. It's called The Naked Truth About Breast Implants by Dr. Susan Kolb. You have got to get those things out. You need to go get it. You need to fly to Atlanta. You need to consult with her. I've already done I already did my research ahead of time for her. I go, she is the ultimate authority on this. She's like, well, we don't want to go there. Maybe we go local. I said, you just go there. So her and her husband, James, they flew to Atlanta. They had an appointment. They ended up doing the surgery there with her. It takes about 6 months to 12 months to recover. But that was the thing. She got that sliver. And guess what? She'd had those things in her breast. They had leaked into her lymph nodes. So they had to remove lymph nodes. It was a major surgery, but she had to get this crap out of her. And then she finally healed. So same thing with the teeth. Now, I've had many of my coaching students that have had root canals. And I'm like, because we go from the top of your head down to your toe, and we go through everything that I've learned. And first thing, one of the things we talked about, your mouth. You have any mercury fillings? Okay, if so, we got to get those out. Number 2, you got a root canal. Okay, we got to get that removed. Many of my clients are like, yeah, I have a root canal, Tim, but it doesn't bother me at all. It's fine. There's nothing. You're going to have a hard time even finding a dentist that will pull it out, because they can get in trouble for like some type of malpractice to pull it because there's nothing wrong with the tooth. But there is something wrong with the tooth. Every single client that I've had that had a tooth with a root canal that wasn't hurting, wasn't bothering them, they pull the tooth and the tooth is completely rotten on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time. They've sent me picture after picture. So if you want to boost your immune system, and listen how profound this is. At the Institute, they've had over 600,000 people through their door. They do the same thing. They do an intake form. You come here for breast cancer. You have a root canal. If you flew from Europe or from Portland, Oregon, like I did, to West Palm Beach, Florida, to save your butt from your cancer, and you have a root canal, they are going to make an appointment with a local dentist, and they're going to send you off campus right now to get that tooth out. And Dr. Clement said, not once, not twice, Tim, but hundreds and hundreds of times when people come here and they do the lifestyle and get cleaned up and flood their body with nutrition, and they get the root canal removed, the cancer goes away.
Magic.
The root canal. So pay attention to root canals. Okay. Use common sense, and don't believe everything I say. Go do your own research. Number 3. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So real fast. So we are coming up on time. So I want to make sure that we not only get those last 2 in, but I also want to get all your contact info for our folks who are listening, how they can get a hold of you, and they can learn more about what you're doing and how they help out. So
okay, I'll fly through the next 2.
Let's do it.
So the next one's called cavitation. What is that? Well, cavitation is like, let's say you had your wisdom teeth pulled, And the dentist accidentally left a little bit of a ligament in there, and that thing started rotting and putrefying, and then it seals up. And then just like the root canal, now you've got this systemic infection. Unfortunately, most dentists don't know how to read the films to even know that. They're not looking for that. We weren't trained in that. 10 years ago, when I had, my wife had a cavity. Well, wasn't my wife. She had a root canal deal, but we had him look for cavitation. She didn't have it, but I found this doctor up in Seattle because I had a client that did. And this young woman was in her 30s, and she had a child. Her husband, thank God, was pretty successful, and he had money because they were doing all kinds of stuff. Again, they did everything. They were growing sprouts, the detoxing. She was doing everything, but she was still kind of pasty white. Her hair was thinning and falling out, and she was just exhausted all the time. She found this out. I didn't find it out. She found out about cavitation. So she got this one dentist that knew how to read the screens, and he's like, yeah, you have 4 cavitations. All 4 of your wisdom teeth that got pulled are infected. Major surgery on one. Then she went up again a month later, major surgery. Then a 3rd month surgery. She wasn't getting any better. 4th surgery, boom, she comes back. The color, the rosy cheeks comes back. The hair starts growing back, all this stuff. She had 4 major infections in her body draining into her system 24/7, 7 days a week. So cavitation, that is something you have to look for in dentistry. The other thing is when they do their films and stuff, sometimes you'll see the mercury fillings, pieces will fall off and slip down. It'll be clear down in the jaw as well. So you might have to get a piece of mercury removed out of the jaw. You'll see this happening from time to time. All right, so that's cavitation. And the last one is just simply alignment. Having your teeth in proper alignment is very important for your electrical system of your body and the meridian points to stimulate. When you're chewing food, this is why a couple of reasons to chew your food is to build jaw strength. And that's why a lot of wisdom teeth are coming at us, because we're not out in nature chewing on stuff and building strong muscles and strong bones. So we're de-evolving. We're getting these smaller jaws. And that's why the wisdom teeth are getting kind of crowded out of there, because it's a smaller area. We need to be like chewing on stuff and strengthening our teeth, just like you strengthen your bones for lifting. Ladies or women, and especially guys too, osteoporosis, osteopenia. Number one, it's a weight resistance deficiency. Yep. It's not calcium. There's only about 1 out of 125 people that are actually calcium deficient. And then they're giving you, chalk and ground up oyster shells. You want to use like Arjuna tree bark. That's a good bioavailable source. But so alignment is very important. And, that's where braces and that kind of stuff fits in. So just don't put toxic crap in your mouth and swish with Listerine, all this stuff. You're going to disrupt your oral microbiome. So anyway, those are the 4 things, man. Mercury fillings, root canals, cavitation, and alignment are the 4 secret foundations that I've discovered working with people that people should take a look at when they have health issues, or if they want to set themselves up for a long, healthy life so they can wake up and feel good.
Love it. And it's going to have a systemic effect. Mm-hmm. So love that so much. So as we wrap up here, Tim, let's tell the folks how they can get a hold of you, how they can get in contact with you, even get to some of the products and programs and things like that. How's the best way for folks to get connected with you?
Yeah, awesome, Jason. So the easiest way, guys, is just our website, chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com. If you guys want to try some products, we have a lot of stuff. So we just tell people, go to the products tab, scroll down and choose savings bundles. That's where you can get a discount. So you can get a discount on your first order. And you can pick like a jumpstart bundle if you want to stick your toe in the water, or if you want to go all in like I do the total energy and detox bundle every month. That's my thing that I've put together in Dr. Treadway, our formulator. And then I also take a bottle of our breakthrough turmeric product, Turmeric 100 for anti-inflammatory. It's like 100, hey dude, no black pepper needed. It's literally like 185 times more anti-inflammatory. I have a what you call a functional medicine clinic down in Texas using it full time for everything inflammation, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Now at checkout, if you guys put in the code HME for Health Made Easy, you get an additional 5% off. So you get a double discount, and we have a double your money back guarantee on all of our products, because I know they're going to work for 98+% of you right up the middle. For the small percentage that, because everybody's different and unique. If something doesn't work for you, call us. We'll refund your money. We'll put you on the phone with a coach, myself, or somebody else, and we'll find another product that does, even if it's at another company. Our supplements and our detox products are only part of our toolkit to help people. A lot of this stuff, like I gave you today, it's about education. we believe that we want to teach you to become your own doctor. We want you to be able to self-heal, to take care of yourself, to take 100% responsibility for yourself. You know, the father of Western medicine, Hippocrates, all the doctors take the Hippocratic oath based on that dude. I will do no harm. And that's awesome. But he also said, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. They kind of missed that one. Medical industry only gives them like 2 weeks of nutrition training. Forget about that. Go to the dietitian, nutritionist. We don't have time for that. But that dude said that was like the whole thing to health. But Hippocrates also said, he who is not his own doctor is a fool. He or she that is not his or her own doctor is a fool. So think about what he was saying. He was wanting you to take responsibility for your health. You have to heal yourself. Jason can't do it. I can't do it for you. Your mom, your aunt, your grandma, your kids can't do it. You have to take responsibility for your health. And here's the cool thing. When you do this, it's very satisfying because you get the satisfaction of knowing you healed yourself and you become empowered and you become a stronger individual, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually when you realize that you are the captain of your own ship. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Dude, that's awesome. And Tim, this has been great. I swear the conversation we had before we even got started recording was equally impressive. And I'm just so impressed by you and your journey and everything that you've gone through. And I just couldn't be more grateful for having you come on the show today and share with our folks. I know they're going to love it. Everybody reach out, go to chemicalfreebody.com and then check out the products, use that code HME at checkout and try the stuff out and really see how your body and your health can transform. So Tim, thank you again, buddy. And look forward to having you back on sometime in the future and we'll hit another topic and enjoy your day. And thanks for being on.
Hey, Jason, I appreciate it. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.